It's Will Beard here. My video blog is about a documentary that I watched called 9/11 Minute by Minute on the Tubi channel. The documentary discusses the events that occurred on the morning of Tuesday, September 11th, 2001. These attacks were perpetrated by 19 hijackers as members of an Islamic organization called Al-Qaeda. They believed that the United States was much weaker than once thought and that attacking the United States would be fairly easy. They wove themselves into everyday fabric of American life. Enrolled in American universities, were trained to fly commercial airliners by Americans, even some becoming our neighbors and friends. The United States was not prepared for something like this. Some believe that an event like this could never happen here. There are several things happening on this day, some of which are following proper protocol when an event like this happens, while other people handling these events do not seem to fully understand what is going on or don't take quick enough action to stop these events from happening. Several terrorists were able to board commercial planes in airports that morning around the country. All were searched. Some were found with box cutters and knives on their person, yet were still allowed to board these airplanes because policies we have today were not in place back in 2001. Once the planes were airborne, they stabbed flight crew members and pilots with weapons and were able to establish control of these airplanes. Once in control, they could decide what happened from this point on. FAA controllers attempted many times to contact these planes, but to no avail. American Airlines Flight 11 from Boston, bound for Los Angeles, changes direction and heads towards New York City, striking the North Tower of the World Trade Center at 8:46 a.m., killing all 92 on board and hundreds inside the building on impact. A few minutes later, United Airlines Flight 175 also changes direction, heads towards Lower Manhattan, striking the South Tower at 9:03 a.m., killing all 65 on board and once again hundreds inside the building. Because of where these planes crashed into each building, hundreds more would either die when the buildings collapse of smoke inhalation and fire from the airplane strike, or would jump to their death as they were trapped above and no way to exit the buildings. If this flight is not delayed 15 minutes in Boston, each plane could have hit both World Trade Center buildings simultaneously. Once the second plane hit the World Trade Center, all flights are shut down around the country by the FAA. It takes 1 hour and 42 minutes for both towers to collapse to a pile of rubble in New York City. Only 2 flights were still unaccounted for. American Airlines Flight 77 that took off from Washington, D.C. and flies west over West Virginia and the southern Ohio border before turning around and heading back towards Washington, eventually striking the Pentagon building, killing all 64 on board and another 125 inside the building that morning. Also, United Flight 93 that takes off from New York City, flying over Cleveland airspace before turning around and heading for a landmark in Washington, only to be taken over by passengers of the flight. This flight never makes it to one of its destination targets and instead crashes in Shanksville, Pennsylvania, killing all 44 people on board. This was the first time that America was attacked to this degree away from a military base. Attacked in a way that we could witness up close. Attacked in a way that we could see, we could feel, and we could know that our country was believed to as once be the strongest in the world was suddenly vulnerable. The aftermath of this event changed the world in how we feel, how we think, how we travel, and how we live. May we never forget those who perished on that day in 2001 and those who will mourn that day for the rest of their lives.